Hello and welcome back into Tobacco Road and Abroad. My name's Gareth Parsons, joined by Aiden Moore. And we've got quite the episode for you today. We've got not only our Super Bowl breakdown, but our football awards show today for college and the NFL. We've got some traditional awards, we got some less traditional awards, we got some funny ones, some non-funny ones. And some of these awards are just for some people that we think would like to shout out that don't necessarily get the recognition that they deserve at either level, both serious and non-serious. So without further ado, I think Aiden and I are going to start off by breaking down the Super Bowl, give some initial thoughts, analysis, kind of some wrap-up takes on the year. So starting off, obviously, as you know, the Chiefs got their absolute ass kicked in the Super Bowl. It wasn't even close. They got a few garbage time touchdowns. And if I'm being honest, there was really no bright spot here for the Chiefs. The really only silver lining, I guess you could say, would be Xavier Worthy's 8 receptions, 3 touchdowns, 157-yard performance. That is domination right there, but I will say it did not come till kind of like the Eagles had given up and kind of putting the backups there at the fourth quarter. Any initial thoughts from you, Aiden? I mean, I know you and I talked a lot about a certain individual during that game, but we'll get to more on that.
Very lackluster performance. I was disappointed. Personally, I was expecting a really good matchup, but the Eagles were able to take care of business and absolutely handled the Kansas City Chiefs. I have mixed emotions about it. I feel number one, my great takeaway is I'm very happy for Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, two very deserving Super Bowl champions. I love the physicality of the Eagles all season, and I thought the speed of the Kansas City Chiefs were going to get the better of the Eagles, but I was proven wrong, and the Eagles proved to be the more physical team and also a team that could capitalize on big plays from the pass game, big physical run plays, and having a very, very powerful defensive line that was able to penetrate and put pressure on Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes was under pressure all day, and I was seeing glimpses of that Super Bowl where Kansas City played Tampa Bay, getting glimpses of that where I saw Mahomes under immense amount of pressure, putting him in awkward positions to make very tough throws, which were eventually capitalized on by the defense. One pick six by Cooper DeJean and lots of other miscues that led to some turnovers and an overall just not the best performance from Kansas City Chiefs, but congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles. Well-deserved Super Bowl win, and I'm just interested to see how Kansas City will respond to this next season. Is this the end of their dynasty, or is it just a lull in what is their prolonged, extensive successful tenure with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid as coach?
Yeah, that is certainly one thing I'm interested to see. Usually, I may need to do more research to back this up, but I've heard people talk about this with the NFL. I've heard things like the worst thing you can do in a season outside of not make the playoffs or finish dead last is to lose in the Super Bowl. Because they said the greatest predictor of a team falling off isn't losing in the playoffs, it's losing in the Super Bowl. That usually marks a period of decline for a team. Obviously, that necessarily wasn't the case in the Patriots dynasty. I do know they did go a decade without winning a Super Bowl, so I guess you could say that one final loss for the Patriots, in the early 2000s, where they went in that 10-year drought, you could say they did fall off in that time period as they didn't win a Super Bowl in those 10 years. And, just some others after Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl win with Nick Foles, they kind of fell off for a few years and weren't too great. Other teams I can think of when the Seahawks lost in the Super Bowl to the Patriots, That was kind of the beginning of the decline of the Legion of Boom and, Russ's tenure in Seattle. They'd make the playoffs a few more times after that, but they wouldn't make it further than an NFC Championship game. Trying to think of some other times, Panthers have made the Super Bowl a few times, and then from there they've gone downhill immediately. Now, I will say I do think it'll be a little bit different for the Chiefs just because of they may not be back in the Super Bowl next year, but I do think, let me preface this, I don't think they're as good as the Patriots were under their dynasty. But I don't think the Chiefs are going to immediately go away. They may decline for a bit. I still think they'll definitely be a playoff team next year, but I definitely going to think things will be tighter for them. I hesitate to say that this season was a lot of luck for them because I do believe luck is a thing, and I know a lot of people would like to say that this season the Chiefs are lucky with how many one-score games they won in. I think it can be luck, but that's also they just know how to get it done in tight situations. They have players that have been there before, and usually when you have players that have been there before, in those clutch scenarios, they usually show up. They've been in stressful scenarios. They know what to do. They'll stay cool under pressure. So, and a lot of times in those scenarios, it's honestly the most, veteran players who make the plays, not necessarily the most skilled. I'm going to make a comparison here. This is something that a lot of people say we've seen lately in March Madness with the advent of NIL and the transfer portal. There's a lot of these teams that are like, these smaller schools, these smaller mid-major schools, especially with schools that play slower like Kentucky or something. Like we've seen this a lot with Kentucky in the past few years. These schools with younger talent, they may be more talented, but because they're less experienced, unlike these mid-major schools where they're all seniors, they've been in tight games. Even though they've been tight games with lesser competition, they know what to do when it gets to the crunch time, when it's stressful. They stay cool. And, if, push comes to shove and there's a quirky, few plays here and there, those smaller teams come out on top. And I'm not saying the Kansas City Chiefs are anything like a mid-major school in this regard. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to knock them. I'm just saying with the team that's been in stressful scenarios, the overtime game with San Francisco last year, very close Super Bowls, the comeback win over San Francisco and their first Super Bowl win under Mahomes, even their close losses in the playoffs to Brady's Patriots in 2019, they've been in those stressful scenarios, and I think that just shows that they were a battle-tested team. Now, granted, I think there is also an asterisk that needs to be put that they played awful in those games. And I do think there was some, as what Aiden would say, black magic fuckery going on at the same time, just kind of like whether it be, and that's kind of the unofficial name for it. It's a lot of factors, but I just think the Eagles had their number. They had a great game plan. The Steve Spagnuolo, he's always has great Kansas City Chiefs defenses. They're always, they always play tough and physical. But I think the main issue here with this Super Bowl, like one of them, obviously the one that you mentioned, was the protection for Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs, they had a few offensive linemen out and they had to shuffle their line. Their starting center, Joe Thuney, had to play at left tackle, which obviously contributed to the kind of miscommunications. And I know sometimes with the offensive line, those positions are interchangeable, but once you start shuffling them around too much, the communication's a little off because you have guys who, they're usually a center, but, when the quarterback makes an audible and you're in the heat of the game, you're most likely going to default to stuff that you've been working on all season for center. The quarterback makes an audible and you're doing what the center should be doing when you're playing left tackle. So that's not an excuse, but like, I just think the Eagles had their number. I just think that the Chiefs, Steve Spagnuolo, took too much of a narrow-minded approach to it. He really sold out on Saquon Barkley. That was his whole thing. Was in a press conference, they asked Spagnuolo, hey, how do you plan on dealing with Saquon Barkley? He's been known to have 100, 150, 200-yard games in the playoffs against even really good stout defenses. And he goes, well, our game plan is just to not even let him get to 100. But at what cost? Jalen Hurts torched you over the top all night. And that's no slide to Jalen Hurts. I think this game for him should have silenced a lot of haters. I know a lot of people like to talk about him as, not quite as much as Lamar, but people like to talk about him like he is a rushing first quarterback, but I think he's kind of turned out nice in the NFL. I think he's shown he's competent as a passer. Outside of that one interception, he looked very good. He was near perfect, 17 of 22 on the day, 11 carries, 72 yards, and a touchdown. I just think, in my opinion, this season as a whole, he's kind of it should have silenced some haters. I know I've seen some people on social media saying that, like, any quarterback could have succeeded with this Eagles team. And I'm willing to argue no. I don't think any quarterback could have won. I
Yeah.
think there's some, but like I don't think any quarterback could have won. I saw some dude on TikTok saying fucking Caleb Williams could have won the Super Bowl with that team around him. No, I disagree. I fundamentally disagree.
I disagree, but
Yes,
also Caleb Williams is a good quarterback. So, like,
and yeah, that's no slight to Caleb Williams. The main point was that Caleb Williams and Jalen Hurts had similar numbers passing wise this season. Jalen Hurts was on the season was 18-5. Caleb Williams is 20-6.
mhm.
I think that's just loose comparisons. I don't think there's any weight to that just because they had similar stats. But honestly, yeah, his passing stats this season weren't stellar, but they didn't need to be. They didn't need to be. What matters is their offense revolved around Saquon Barkley in the run game and their other backs who they could get involved. But what matters the most is that when the running game wasn't working against the Chiefs, it was him who stepped up and won this game. Yes, obviously you had A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith with several key touchdown catches, but it was Hurts who, the Chiefs defense was showing they weren't giving an inch in the run game. And it was Jalen Hurts who, put the team on his back, showed that, hey, I am a competent passer. And torched isn't the right word, but he was able to pick apart the Chiefs defense when he needed to. And a Chiefs defense that is one of the best in the league at what they do. So that's just my take on it. There's always going to be haters. I know I saw lots of people saying that, this doesn't prove anything for Jalen Hurts. I think it does. I think it proves that he's competent. One thing that I will also say this should also put to bed is there's been a lot of stuff going around on social media and sports media pages in general saying that a scrambling quarterback could never win the Super Bowl, which, that's also just blatantly false because they've won it before since the 2000s as well. You've got Russell Wilson winning with the Seahawks. I know he's not like one of those run first guys like Lamar, but, Hurts has been seen as a run first guy, so I think that's also been put to bed that running quarterbacks can't win the NFL because they just did.
Yeah.
So, but he showed he was competent as a passer, which I think that should put any debate to rest about him being a liability to the Eagles. He caught a lot of flack last season for the amount of turnovers he had, but he also had a lot of touchdowns last season. I think he had like almost 40 touchdowns last season, so. Not necessarily. I think that was kind of a moot point to begin with. But, hats off to Jalen Hurts. You put the team on your back when it was needed. There's a lot of questions around him. You put them to bed. I just think this Super Bowl was more of the Eagles silencing their haters and a Chiefs loss more than necessarily this was just kind of, I feel like, a blow for the Chiefs as well. It was like, you wanted to prove you were there was a lot of questions about them comparing themselves to the Patriots dynasty as well. And I'm just, I don't see it. Yes, people hated the Patriots, but I feel like they were also dominant. The Chiefs, I just feel like it just feels like black magic. And don't get me wrong. Yeah.
I feel like there's recency bias. Just this year, the Chiefs, we saw the decline a little bit. And we're now immediately comparing them to a Patriots dynasty that I don't consider the Patriots dynasty to be one dynasty. It was two dynasties that happened over 20 years. There was the first part, which in my opinion is one of the worst dynasties in history. That first iteration of the Patriots dynasty, offensively speaking, is probably one of the worst dynasties, all carried by Bill Belichick's defense, in my opinion. But then that second iteration of the Patriots dynasty, that's probably one of the greatest dynasties of all time, in my opinion. With strong wins against Seattle, we got a win against Los Angeles, and what was the other one? that the third Seahawks, Rams, and AFC.
I do
What
think Rams was the last one. Rams
Rams
was the
Was the
third.
last one. Seahawks was the first one. There's one in the middle that I'm forgetting right now. What is it?
Falcons. It was
Falcon.
Falcons.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Duh. 28-3. Duh. Yeah. That's the greatest, probably offensive dynasty. I know the Rams one was probably one of the more boring Super Bowl wins, but comparing the Chiefs to them, right now, let's take this moment in particular. Okay, so to understand the full Chiefs dynasty, the Chiefs started off with a win against San Francisco. Tampa Bay, they didn't win. Then a win against in their
San Fran.
dynasty, San Francisco again.
Wait, no, it was
San
Eagles.
Francisco Eagles, and then San Francisco. So three Super Bowl wins. I still count them as a dynasty right now. There's a little bit of a lull. They had a lull when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl against the Los Angeles
Rams.
Rams. So I don't consider that being like as detrimental. Patrick Mahomes is still a young quarterback. There's still a lot of time right now. I consider this Chiefs dynasty somewhere in between, like definitely not. If we take the Patriots dynasty and like constitute it as one dynasty, which I think is a flawed perception, but if you count it as one dynasty, I don't think the Chiefs are as good as them, but I still think there's a lot of time. I think they're as good, if not better, than the first iteration of the Patriots. I think they're, offensively speaking, there's a lot of other dynasties that, like, if you just constitute the time, I think they're better than like the Cowboys of old. Um, they're better than what are other dynasty? The Steelers. We consider them a dynasty back in the
What
70s and 80s, and then San Francisco
about the
is
in the 90s, the 80s and 90s San Francisco? Yeah.
80s and 90s San Francisco. This is going to be an interesting topic for the summer. So I have gone back and forth on my opinion about them. I think it's the fact that they were able to show success with two quarterbacks, which really kind of makes me put them as like my second greatest dynasty because they were able to transition from Joe Montana to Young, and I feel like that definitely goes into understanding like how good a dynasty is. Because if the Patriots switched QBs, uh, like and got rid of Tom Brady, that probably would have ended their dynasty. I think if the Chiefs got rid of Patrick Mahomes, they wouldn't be able to replicate the same amount of success. So that's what makes San Francisco an interesting case, in my opinion. If I had to put them, like historically speaking, as a dynasty, I would probably put them. I'd probably rank Patriots 2.0 number one, San Francisco number two, then I'll put the Kansas City Chiefs at number three. But if you
Yeah.
incorporate like uh, Patriots 1.0 and 2.0 into one, then it's just kind of like the same thing. I would put Patriots 1.0 at the bottom of my dynasty list, but if you have to incorporate them, I would put them like at the front because I just feel like the latter half of the Patriots dynasty is the better half.
It certainly was the more entertaining one to watch, I will say. But I also feel like that was different eras of the NFL. Obviously, 70s, 80s, 80s NFL was a lot more pass happy than 90s, early 2000s. Early 2000s NFL was very run heavy, very defensive oriented, and I think that late 2010s was about when that offensive the NFL started swinging back towards an offensive minded game. Often the game was geared towards the offense, kind of like how college had been for the last 20 years. So what I will say is I don't think they're comparable to the Patriots dynasties. That's just stuff I've been seeing thrown around by Kansas City Chiefs fans coping, saying they're still a dynasty. I still think they are. And honestly, my gripe with the Chiefs isn't necessarily even their team or even Patrick Mahomes himself. I like Patrick Mahomes a lot as a player. I think he's good. But in my opinion, I think the Chiefs are better when he's throwing the ball around like a gunslinger. That's when they've been at their best. That's when I've thought the Chiefs have been more unstoppable. Like when they played against the 49ers in that one Super Bowl when they came from behind in a double-digit deficit. Gunslinging Patrick Mahomes, I think, granted, they don't have the players for that, but I think Kansas City is at its best when he's playing like a gunslinger. And obviously, he's got the decision-making ability to be like, a more cautious style pocket passer. But if I'm being honest, I think his position is better. He's better suited as more of a gunslinger, in my opinion, just because that's what he grew up as. That's kind of like that's what he is. Like that's
Yeah,
what he was in high school. That's what he was in college. And I'm not saying he needs to be like, Jameis Winston award worthy interceptions and touchdowns, but like let him sling the rock. That's the type of quarterback he is.
yes,
It's like it would be like I wouldn't now obviously, you've got your team needs and playing styles, but like it's someone like Jalen Hurts, I wouldn't put him in an offense like that. That's not his type of quarterback. And that's not a knock towards him. He needs to be more in like a pro style offense with run passing balance. But that's also because he's got a running ability himself. Like not every quarterback's going to succeed in any system. And this is going to lead to like a summer video where I have a rant about system quarterbacks, about how I think it's kind of a stupid point when brought up in most terms. I do think that term can apply to a few people, but I think overall it's a stupid term. But that's another summer video. But like I said, yeah, I guess they are a dynasty, but I don't know where I'd put them in other dynasties. Definitely not up there with the second Patriots dynasty either. I know the NFL website considers the Patriots dynasty as one big one from like 2000 to 2019, but I like having that much of a gap in your Super Bowl wins. I think it's got to be a separate. I think if you have a whole decade in between Super Bowl wins, that's got to be like that's two separate ones right there.
yeah. I can see the argument, but yeah, I go back and forth from considering one dynasty to another dynasty, like two separate dynasties, just mainly because of I think the offensive play by Tom Brady, like in his first Super Bowls, was very lackluster. And like when we think of like the greatness that was the Patriots, like it's two separate types of greatness. Like the defensive performance in the first iteration is like kind of what carried them to success. While in the second half of the dynasty, yes, there were more like there was the Los Angeles game where they were pretty much carried on defense. But even in their Super Bowl losses, they were a lot better, like offensive performance. Like Brady had his best Super Bowl game in a loss against the Eagles, and
Yeah.
I just feel like it's interesting fuel for thought.
Yeah, and what I will say on this is we're not throwing shade at Tom Brady for that. I think, and this is a conversation for another day, but when comparing these, and I know Tom Brady's offensive production, like you said, in the Super Bowls wasn't as great. If I'm being honest, I think people would have been calling for like a quarterback change in today's day and age with a lot of these star quarterbacks of old, just because of how hyper obsessed with stats our generation is, or at least this generation of sports watchers within recent years. But one thing I will add to that is I think we're stats obsessed to a detriment. I think it's to the point where people don't actually watch the games because, in my opinion, the stats have to be in context.
Yeah,
Like the stats have to be in context. Like, a quarterback can have, 40 touchdown passes, but how many of those were in garbage time? Or like It's like when a team comes back and makes a game look closer. And it's like the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes 3 touchdown passes. Patrick Mahomes didn't play 21 of 32 for 250 and 3 touchdowns well. All of those came in the latter half and from the second half of the third quarter on. Before that, I don't think he even had 100 passing yards. So there's got to be context. And with some of these games, you've got to just – and I get in retrospect, it's hard to go back and watch those games. But for me, it's more about, do you get your job done? Like, you don't have to light up the stat sheet. I mean, I just feel like we rely too much on, like, stats without context. And I think that's – this, like I said, this is going to be a video for the summer, but like I think that's why we're seeing the resurgence of some certain quarterbacks we've deemed busts, because we didn't give them time to develop and they weren't immediately lighting up the stat sheet. They might have been getting it done job-wise, but because of fan outcry, I think they were tossed out of favor. So that's what I'll say about that. But from there, you got anything else to add about the Super Bowl?
No, that pretty much sums up my thoughts.
I've got some stuff to say, but it more aligns with the awards we're about to give. So would you want to jump into the award show?
We must jump into the award show.
All right. So welcome into the Tobacco Road and Abroad Award Show. This is for college and the NFL. I have a few ones. We have a few probably unofficial awards we'll talk about at the end. But, you know, what award should we start off with? Do we want to start off with like the big one, like MVP, or do we just want to kind of go down the line what we talked about?
You have the list. Take it away, Gareth.
We'll start off conventionally so people don't think we're completely off our rocker, even though we are. All right, yes. We'll start off with the NFL MVP. I think Aiden and I both agree on this. We've gone with Lamar Jackson. Aiden, you want to let them into our thought process here on Lamar Jackson?
Well, when it comes to a regular season performance, Lamar Jackson, in my opinion, had one of the greatest seasons a NFL quarterback can have. His ability to rush, pass the ball, throw it at a high proficiency in the short, medium, and long passing game leads him to being one of my most valuable quarterbacks in the league. But what makes him the most valuable player, in my opinion, is also his ability to lead his team to success during the regular season. He had tons of clutch plays, and just overall a performance that really elevated Baltimore to another level this season. With tools like Derrick Henry around him, he was also able to spread the ball more evenly, and he's just proven himself to be one of the best individual players in the league. If I had to say who is probably like more valuable and didn't get as much attention when it comes to the quarterback position, I'm obviously going to give that to Joe Burrow. He carried his team like pretty far, but with his defense not being able to keep up for him, they eventually did miss the playoffs. But when it comes to just a single player performing at a level to elevate his team, I would have to say it's between Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. But Lamar Jackson had the more proficient regular season, so that's why I decided to give my vote towards him.
I agree, and I think similar to Jalen Hurts, I feel like those two quarterbacks that have been kind of labeled as, running backs to kind of, trash them, I feel like they put a lot of haters to silence. I mean, Lamar Jackson, I think he had the most passing touchdowns in the NFL this year out of any of the other quarterbacks outside of Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, I know, led the league with 43. I think Lamar might have had 41. Joe Burrow was 43-9. I think he was the best rated passer this year. Let me bring it up real quick. Just a fact check before I say something stupid. Yeah, Joe Burrow led the league in passing yards and passing touchdowns with 43 passing touchdowns, 4,900 yards, just 82 yards short of that 5,000-yard mark. Lamar Jackson, 41 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. To me, that's slinging the rock around. Not necessarily with reckless abandon, but he was careful with the ball. And I think that was another kind of knock that people had on him, similar to Jalen Hurts, was that he wasn't careful with the ball. He didn't know how to throw the ball. Both him and Jalen Hurts proved that wrong, and that is why he is also my NFL MVP. So for our college MVP, I might be bad with the facts here, but I think I've got it. Our college MVP, Aiden and I both agreed on this one. But first, we'll do our honorable mention. Honorable mention to Bryson Daly, the Army quarterback. Dude was just an absolute dog. He was a quarterback with a fullback's mentality. He was just run people over. Second in touchdowns among quarterbacks, just one touchdown behind Cam Newton. 33 rushing touchdowns, 9 passing touchdowns, which 9 passing touchdowns for a service academy quarterback that's not an Air Force quarterback is pretty good. Air Forces tend to throw the ball around a little more than the other two service academies, historically speaking. So, but that's enough of that about Bryson Daly. I know Aiden and I could talk for hours about him and how we think he's a good quarterback, but without further ado, here's our college MVP, the man, the myth, the legend, Ashton Jeanty. Let's see if I can get the show. There we go. College MVP, Ashton Jeanty. For us, no introduction. The People's Heisman. What are your thoughts, Aiden?
When it comes to the definition of a most valuable player, I just see Ashton Jeanty through and through. And it's the fact that he was able to carry a rather, I would say, good Boise State team all the way to the playoffs. The Boise State offense basically relied on Ashton Jeanty being great, and he stepped up to the occasion time and time again. Countless for rushing over 100, 200 yards on countless occasions. When the Broncos needed him to be clutch, he was there, which is why I have him as my MVP, because he was truly the most valuable player to a team. I have tons of respect for Travis Hunter. He was great. And I do think he does deserve to be a Heisman because he was able to encapsulate something that is very rare, which is being good on both sides of the ball. But in terms of just team utilage and being able to use a single player to your benefit and taking that team to another level, I have to say that's Ashton Jeanty, because the Colorado Buffaloes had tons of tools around them and weren't able to make it to the playoffs, but Ashton Jeanty almost single-handedly took the Broncos from a non-contender to a contender over a one-season period and had everybody on watch for the Boise State Broncos. And for that reason, I want to give Ashton Jeanty the College MVP award.
I'd have to agree. Like you said, he was just kind of their all-around man. Even when teams stacked the box against him, even when Penn State was putting 8, 9 people in the box, he still found a way to get 150 yards rushing on the ground. I think that says a lot. And I know there's always the argument, oh, well, he's doing it in the Mountain West. My counterpoint to that is, well, if he's doing that against Mountain West defenses, he's also doing that with the Mountain West offensive line. Just saying. So I feel like that's something that's got to be recognized right there. But I really don't think there's much else for me to add. It's just, I think Ashton, just the name says it all, Ashton Jeanty. So I think, honestly, I think he might have been the most valuable player in football at both levels to a team. Mm-hmm. So that's with that. The next award, it's kind of a joke award. It's more or less to just dog on this individual because we think this individual is pretty, morally corrupt, kind of a piece of shit. And we're borrowing this award from my year-round swim team that I used to swim for. We had an LVP for every meet. So we've got an LVP for the NFL season. And honorable mention, we don't have an honorable mention LVP. LVP, least valuable player, morally reprehensible, just kind of a dick, kind of, scum of the earth. LVP, Deshaun Watson, not worth the money, morally reprehensible, like we said, allegations out the wazoo. Just the Cleveland fans cheered when he snapped his Achilles, and I wouldn't say that about many athletes. I was happy when that happened. I honestly thought I might have even seen a lightning bolt come down from the fucking heavens and hit him in the Achilles tendon. Who knows? I know that's a horribly painful injury. Good. I don't care. Morally reprehensible person. Fuck Deshaun Watson.
While he is a namesake for a future award that we are going to be giving out momentarily, we had to give the least valuable player award to Deshaun Watson. And it boils down to one fact for me, and it's the fact that no other player has set back a franchise in decades as much as Deshaun Watson has. Cleveland was on the up when they had traded for Deshaun Watson, and it was all the consensus like, oh, give him a year of all this suspension. I was hearing people say that he would be worth the controversy. Well, it is clear the amount of controversy he has brought to Cleveland is not worth the output that he is giving on the field. The LVP, in my opinion, we're just going to keep it straightly on the field. Deshaun Watson was not the same Deshaun Watson as he was in the Texans or even Clemson. He was just improficient, unable to really rally the team around him, countless mistakes. And it's just the fact that he had so much media attention on him and everybody wanted him out just adds to the fact that he was creating a locker room divide and was just bringing tons of negative attention to Cleveland. And with his contract and the uncertainty of his contract, he has definitely set Cleveland back uh, many years now. And it's for that fact that I have to give him the least valuable player because of the amount of attention he has been garnering. It is just not worth it for the output that he's been putting on the field. Has there been players that play worse? Obviously, yes, but has there been players that have played worse at this level with as much hype as he had behind him? I would say this is generational. So I'm going to have to give my LVP to Deshaun Watson.
That's all. I've got nothing else to add. So, the namesake for this award, this next award, the Deshaun Watson Man of the Year Award. Think similar to the last one, morally reprehensible, scum of the earth. Just kind of not all around great person. This is meant to shame someone. So currently, for those of you who aren't aware, there's some pretty strong allegations going around about this player. Some stuff on that I've seen on Twitter/X has led me to believe that this is true. And the allegations I've seen on X that went unnoticed as far back as last year, which is making me there were tweets saying some things, which is leading me to believe this is true based on these tweets saying exactly what we know right now, but were like a year ago and kind of flew under the radar. Our Deshaun Watson Man of the Year, or I should say morally irreprehensible dumbass of the year award, Justin Tucker.
Justin Tucker is I loved Justin Tucker when he was good. He was a great kicker for the Ravens, but with a fall off a little bit this year, but also a that doesn't excuse his morally reprehensible alleged behavior. Accusations of sexual assault are something that we should take very seriously in the NFL and across sports in general. Um, I do believe in innocent until proven guilty, but with the amount of accusations that has arisen, I will gladly redact any statement that I make against Justin Tucker if I am proven wrong. But right now, it's just the facts of the case and all the accusations coming out. I have to say that I am not a fan of Justin Tucker, and there definitely need to be some disciplinary actions done by the NFL to make sure actions like this are not allowed in NFL culture and are nipped in the bud. Justin Tucker, I believe, has 6 accusations of sexual misconduct, and that is unacceptable in my book. If proven to be guilty in a court of law, we need to get rid of people like him. I believe there is no space in the sports world where we're finding entertainment in the performance that athletes give on the field. I believe you should not be rewarded if you are a morally reprehensible person that has this sort of conduct. It's just not a good look on the league, and it's just not a good look for men across this nation. So I believe with the amount of accusations, investigations need to be done, and investigations are going to be had. And if he is found guilty, we must uh, uh, basically throw the book at him, unlike what we did with Deshaun Watson. So, I hope the NFL can change, but right now it's just not looking likely. But the best we can do is highlight these issues and bring them to the forefront of fans' minds so they know and they can vote with their dollar and choose to support athletes that are more morally responsible.
Yeah, and I think it's not just the facts, it's the fact that these accusations, none of the accusers know each other or have had any prior contact. And the fact is that some of the facts that we know have been on Twitter for a year and have gone completely unnoticed, like didn't blow up. There's been tweets about like these massages and like, the stuff that he's been doing on Twitter for close to a year now that absolutely match what's coming out in police reports. So that's also what's leading me to believe that this is true. Moving onto a lighter note, honestly, this might be my favorite award of the year. This is our Cracker of the Year award. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, we've got two people for this. We've got a college and NFL one. I'm going to lead with the NFL one because I think it is the bigger one, in my opinion. This man, he has songs named after him. He scored a touchdown on his birthday in the Super Bowl. This man is not a safety. Cracker of the Year award goes to Cooper DeJean of the Eagles. You want to take this one away?
Cooper DeJean is definitely the Cracker of the Year in my book. Proving that, hey, listen, white guys can have speed too. And Cooper DeJean, cornerback in the NFL, that's white. That's a rare thing to find these days. And I like making jokes like this. Obviously, race should not matter when it comes to liking or disliking an NFL player. But the reasons why I want to give him this award this year mainly just boils down to the memes. I mean, damn, if the memes were not hilarious, some of the most funny memes I've ever seen. I had to explain to my girlfriend the other day why I was laughing at a Cooper DeJean meme, and I had to explain, hey, he plays cornerback, and he's actually pretty good, and that's a surprise for a lot of people because a lot of people think white people can't play cornerback. But as Steve Harvey, I said in a meme, I play how you want some white cornerback and get yourself some Cooper DeJean. Got a pick six in the NFL on the Super Bowl on his birthday. So shout out Cooper DeJean for being Cracker of the Year. Really doing numbers in the NFL.
Yeah, and it's fun. His teammates are even in on the white cornerback joke. They were singing the song on the bench. There's TikToks on them. Like, for those of you who don't know what the song is, here, I'll play it for you. Machine is not safety. He's just a corner who will lock down your number one. DeJean is CB1. But no, there was a video. There's videos in the Super Bowl of his fucking teammates singing that song on the bench. And like Aiden said, like, race should not be a thing in this, but he's got black teammates in here singing the song about saying his white ass can run. Like, I'm watching the Super Bowl with some of my girlfriend's friends, and they're some of the most they're a certain way on the political spectrum where they don't think certain things are funny, and they're singing the song too. I'm sitting on the couch with my girlfriend and her friends, and one of them's an Eagles fan, so she didn't care. She was singing the song the entire time. Like, they started singing the song on the pick six, like before he even got to the end zone. Like, the girl next to me starts going, his white ass can run. Like, they were like, look at that white boy go. Like, come on.
Cooper DeJean really bringing together this nation. In a time of adversity and political division, we need a Cooper DeJean that we can all just point to and go like, his white ass can run.
All right. I don't think this next individual for Cracker of the Year in college can top it, but I think it's for the memes. Honestly, part of me gives him this award just because of the way his name's spelled. That like this is the most white way to spell this name. So Cracker of the Year for college goes to Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart.
Jackson Dart has one of the most white names I've ever seen. I don't know why you spell Jackson like that, but he really embodied the embodiment of Cracker of the Year, in my opinion, because he really embodied the cracker frat boy stereotype. He had an aura around him, a very Old Miss aura, and play aside, throwing picks at pivotal moments. Kind of looking like Anakin when he loses, going like, we need to win out. Well, yes, in theory, yes, you do need to win out. That is the goal of every team. But he has a very cracker vibe to him. And that's why I think he embodies the embodiment of Cracker of the Year award in the NCAA.
Yeah, for me, it's also just kind of like he feels like based on his name, he's from a family where they give all their like that one white Southern family. You can find them in North Hills, like the North Hills area, North Carolina. You can find them all across the South. It's kind of like that upper crust socialite, you know. His sister's name is probably Missy May or something like that, or his mom's name is probably Missy May, or his sister's name's Emily, but it's not spelled the normal way. It's like MELIGH, something like that. Not your Emily, obviously. You guys spell it normally. I
Yeah.
mean Emily like spelled like the most white, like ME, like instead of ILY, it's ILEGH or something like that. Or his like sister's name's like Missy Grace or something like
Yes.
that, like
Yes.
double names, like
Yes.
both of his parents probably have gotten Botox or something. So his mom was probably no, not going to make that joke. But
Let's stop. Let's
you know what?
stop.
We'll say she's in a Herman's mom was probably in a sorority at Ole Miss. We'll just say that. We'll just leave it at that. Um, and his mom will probably post on Facebook about how much she just loves Jesus, and she just loves Jesus. So we'll just leave it at that. I will comment on the Anakin vibes. I do think he actually was going for that look because if you look at how he wore his eye black, he did it to mirror the scar that Anakin has over his eye in Star Wars. For those who don't know, Anakin's the main character in some of the movies, has a scar over his eye. He even purposely cut his hair like that and even has like the Anakin scar eye black. So I
That
will,
really
as much
adds to the award.
really as the way I will say, as much shit as I give him, I do like that touch, seeing Star Wars nerds, even in like, the most chat of sports. I do like seeing like, Star Wars nerds. So
Yes, but we are crackers, so
Cracker of the Year.
yeah.
All right. Moving on. I think this award is something it's been talked about in college football circles a lot in the past couple of seasons. And before we get to this word, I just want to say we'd like to thank law enforcement, first responders everywhere. They're a big part of our communities, keeping things safe. Aiden knows exactly where this is going. I've taken the liberty to rename this because this is kind of encapsulates a lot right now. I feel like our original name was a little reductive and kind of cut down because with the individuals that have received this award, the things they did were similar but different enough. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce the Georgia State Trooper Traffic Stop Etiquette Award. So our NFL winner for this, obviously, has to go to, in past seasons, had we had a show, it would have gone to like Henry Ruggs or someone. But this year,
Poor taste.
but this year, our Georgia State Trooper Traffic Stop Etiquette of the Year award goes to none other than Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice. Give it up for Rashee Rice. Aiden, take it away.
Well, first thing I want to say, first, drive responsibly out there. It is very important. First off, click it or ticket, and if you believe that you are intoxicated in any way, you must find a way to Uber. especially if you have the funds. Getting an Uber is always important, but Rashid Rice, I believe, was pulled over for, was it a DUI or speeding?
I don't know. Let's look up Rashi Rice pulled over. Oh my god. He was driving a Corvette and was speeding and lost control. Bounced off the median, hit a retaining wall, and then hit a car at 119. And it caused a
Uh,
six-car crash.
Always drive the speed limit and be careful when you drive. Driving
Stick
is
to
one of the
five
most
over.
driving is one of the most dangerous things that you can do on a daily basis. Please always make sure that you are driving in accordance with the law and are always on your top game when you are driving. Uh, I hope we send. I don't know, man. Listen, man. I don't know where to put this. Let's go to the collegiate award of this.
Well, all I
This is
will say is you'll understand why it's called the Georgia State Trooper Traffic Stop Etiquette of the Year Award. I know Rashi Rice's incident happened in Dallas, but with this award, you're about to figure out why it's named specifically for the state of Georgia. Um, this one's going to a group of people. I'll introduce this one. I'll explain. So, for college, the Georgia State Trooper Traffic Stop Etiquette of the Year award goes to any receiving corps in the SEC. Sorry, let me fix that.
uh,
Any receiving corps in the SEC. And let me say why. Well, first of all, why is it named after Georgia? Because Georgia wide receivers, or anyone in a Georgia receiving corps, tight end, wide receiver, whatever, has had a habit of getting into traffic incidents every single offseason. Every single season, for that matter, season and off season, both for that matter, since 2020, a member of the Georgia receiving corps or wide receiver room has gotten some sort of traffic infraction that has made national news. And the reason why we say any SEC receiving corps at this point is because LSU is starting to take after them. So honestly, give it up for anyone in a receiving corps in the SEC. They're probably having some bad traffic stop etiquette as of right now. So, like we said, drive responsibly, stay off your phone, don't speed, don't drink and drive, get an Uber if you decide to drink. Don't drive distracted, don't drive high either, even though not every state has laws against driving high, but don't do it either. It's not a great idea. I know
mhm.
some states' DUI laws are a little weird, particularly in North Carolina. I will call out and ask North Carolina law enforcement to do better. I've driven through downtown Raleigh, seen people smoking joints openly with the windows down, drive past not just any police station, the fucking Wake County Detention Center, the main slammer in the city of Raleigh, with cops sitting out front. I've seen people drive by smoking a joint with their windows open right in front of law enforcement sitting the fuck outside that police station, and they've done nothing. So do better, and let's just say, folks, just be safe with driving. Like Aiden said, it's one of the most dangerous things you can do on a given day. Even me, who lives in like the great white shark capital of the U.S. right now, the Northeast, you are still more likely to die in a car accident up here than be bit by a great white shark up here in New England, even though New England is like the breeding ground for great white, one of the main breeding ground for great white sharks. So stay safe out there. It is for those people between the ages of 15 and 40, that is the most common way you will die outside of other things I'm not going to talk about that are depressing. But so, like I said, please drive safely. This award necessarily isn't meant to be a joke. It's more or less meant to highlight, driving is dangerous, and bad things can happen when people drive and drive irresponsibly. So
And
please drive
and
responsibly.
also there needs to be more disciplinary actions done against people who violate these laws, because it's not just your life, it is the life of others that you are putting at risk. And I believe college football needs to be doing a little bit better at mitigating these risks, and we need to find more ways to disincentivize athletes from driving in these reckless ways.
All right, the next award. This is kind of like we're not making fun of this individual. This individual is tough, and we want to lead with this individual is tough, and we're not dogging on him. But this is also just kind of not that he would ever watch our podcast, but a cry for help for this individual to take care of themselves better, playing the sport of football and in their recovery from injuries. So without further ado, let's introduce the Antonio Brown CTE Award.
The Antonio Brown CTE Award goes to Tua Tagovailoa. Listen, Tua has made a personal choice to decide to keep playing the game of football after the amount of concussions that he has had. We pray for the prolonged success of his career, but we also pray that his doctors and his family make the decisions that are best for him. And he also makes the best decisions in light of anything that may be going on in his life. CTE is a very serious thing, and it's something we can't prove until somebody is unfortunately passed. But the way the NFL has conducted itself in handling Tua Tagovailoa, I feel like is reprehensible. I think there should be time. With the amount of concussions that he has faced, I think sitting out for a season is very much in line. And I think that's something that the NFL should possibly look into. If a player reaches a threshold of certain concussions, going back on the field for the rest of the season should be something that is up for debate. And I think the NFL should be able to step in those cases. However, I am not a doctor, and I am not Tua's doctors. I am sure his doctors are giving him advice and telling him not to play, and if it's his choice to go out and play, he should be allowed to make that choice for himself. But in the end, it's bigger than a game. We need to realize that the impacts that are had in this game are sometimes last way beyond somebody's football career, and it is a serious issue that must be discussed. And I don't think a guardian cap or a new helmet is something that's going to be able to completely get rid of the issue.
I agree, and like I said, this award's not to make fun of him, but it's just it's more or less to express concern. In one of his press releases, it honestly, after the second one, the season seemed like he was still concussed when he was asked if he learned anything new about concussions, because I'm not entirely sure. I'm gonna fact check this. I'll come back to this if I'm wrong. But I remember there was they not the NFL, but his doctors did something to try and educate him further on concussions, seeing as he's had a lot. But when the reporters asked, being this concussion being this bad, have you learned anything? And he said, yeah, that concussions are bad in the most concussed way possible. He said it. He didn't sound fully himself. I've watched plenty Tua interviews, and he did not seem all that home. So this, as much as this seems like us joking, this is more or less expressing concern and just kind of raising awareness that, concussions are serious, and And we are back, starting off strong with the Will Smith Cuck of the Year Award. It goes to Travis Hunter. Like I said, we're not making fun of him. We're just saying, Travis,
actually, we are.
You deserve better. Oh, we are?
We kind of are, but but also, Travis, bro, get out of there, man.
Do better.
If you have not seen what's been going on social media, I haven't caught up with it lately, but back in December, man, no other publicized relationship looked so bad on a person as Travis Hunter did with his girlfriend. Long story short, basically, his girlfriend was kind of putting him through the ringer a little bit, sounding off on social media of how he's been not spending enough time with her, not showing as much support as his family and his teammates has in light of his success. and sounding off on social media about some dirty laundry in their relationship, making it sound better than it actually like really does sound, like trying to play it off. But in the end, I have to say, like, Travis Hunter, you got to get that prenup, man, because it's not looking good. A lot of people feel like they can smell it from a mile away. That blood is in the water, and you got to do what's best for you. Um, I will give Travis Hunter props. He does seem he is convicted, and well, like he is a man of conviction, and he really does believe that this relationship is good for him. To that, if you're a happy man, good on you. But the red flags are there, and everybody needs somebody that's going to be their biggest fan in a relationship. And if there's dirty laundry, that stuff's got to be put under wraps. But just the amount of media firestorm that has been behind it, like if you're hearing about it on ESPN, you know something has definitely gone awry. But sending prayers out to Travis Hunter that his relationship either molds for the better and they become stronger through this, or that that Travis Hunter finds that a new route might be best for him. Whichever it is, I hope he finds happiness in there and I hope he finds success. But right now, he's just kind of on the internet, not looking the best and not having the weight of a lot of eyes on him. And with that comes narratives of him being a cuck. I don't know if we should go as far to say that, but this is the award, and I'd say this is more of like a Will Smith crash out than a Will Smith cuck award, in my opinion. But Gareth might have some other opinions on it. But in my opinion, Travis Hunter, you had an amazing season on the field, but damn if the antics off the field and the firestorm off the field didn't play a role in just kind of how people perceive you. I hope for the best for you, and I can't wait to see how your NFL career turns out. So,
Yeah, and this isn't me making fun of him. This is me saying do better. I don't know if you've seen it, but lately there have been leaks of Snapchats of her cheating on him.
mm,
Literal videos of like her making food for another guy, like clearly after them having done stuff, like, and it's heavily
mm,
insinuated in the videos. I'm not calling him a cuck to dog on him. I'm just saying do better, man. Like, you used to like drive her to parties and wait outside in the car. You're a better man than I am. Like, I'll walk my girlfriend home from a party that I wasn't at, if I'm like near it. But like, I wouldn't drive someone to a party, wait outside of it in the car running just for her to go inside and cheat on you, man.
mm.
You deserve better. You seem to be like a pretty stand on business guy. You play both ways. Like, you clearly are a dog. And for those who don't know, Travis Hunter is decided for the draft. He is entering as a cornerback, not a wide receiver. I don't know. We'll talk on whether we think that's the right call later, but like I said, he is a hardworking individual. He did have a remarkable season, but do better, man. Like, do better. On to the next award. This next award, I'm gonna let Aiden present this, but I'm gonna kind of give some context here. There's some kind of soccer spice with this award. There's Aiden and I have talked about this before in regards to soccer, in terms of certain teams and blood money and such. I think Aiden knows where this is going. So, without further ado, this award's going into an entire university. Without further ado, here's the Saudi Arabia Sellout Award, with the winners being the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill.
This is an honor, and I'm going to take this award on their behalf. And I'm honored to be here to not only present the award, but also give them the award.
This was your idea.
This was my idea, and I am glad to accept the award on the university's behalf. Basically, We have sold our soul to the devil right now. The same way a soccer player who may be past his prime sells out to a Saudi Arabian football team to get the cash in on the money. UNC has sold out all its ways, for better or for worse. We fired our long-standing head coach that was beloved by alumni and the program alike right before a major rivalry game. Basically, tried to oust him right before the rivalry game because we did not want him coaching that game. And we said we wanted a new, fresh face going into the season, and we ended up hiring Bill Belichick. I am still up in the air on whether I am full in on this uh, hire or not, but Bill Belichick is like a few months younger than Mac Brown. So, we eventually just gave a giant boatload of money to Bill Belichick and said, have your way with us and do whatever you want. And we're going to see how that turns out. But the major sellout factor of this award remains true. UNC has turned on everything, every moral, any bit of moral high ground you can stay on as a UNC fan. You cannot have that right now. We have just sold our soul to the devil, and we're just going to see if it works or not. So I am proud to announce that the Saudi Arabia Sellout Award goes to UNC for selling out on a beloved head coach and going out to basically uproot the entire UNC athletic department. Is this uprooting going to be a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. If it does, hey, I said the sellout worked. If not, this is going to be a meme for decades to come.
Yeah, and part of the reason where I this is quite the sellout isn't just because the way they ousted Mac Brown, it's the amount of times they fired him on Monday. They let him know. They tried to not get him to coach the bowl game or to coach the game on Monday, or to coach the rivalry game on the Monday before. They come to him again on Friday night. The game against State's at 3 p.m., mind you, the next day. This is Friday, and they go, hey, we really don't want you coaching this. So if you would please not coach the bowl game. And Mac Brown's like, no, I want to coach this. I want to go out on my own terms. They tried to get rid of him the fucking night before. Similar to what Will Smith said in that one movie about like a Saudi bachelor party. Like that, this just leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouth. Like this is, I get change was needed. And it's similar to what Rick Pitino talked about with reading the tea leaves. I think Mac Brown would have stepped down had he just been asked to without all this drama about it. Like I get he has to go. It's similar to how I feel about Kevin Keatts right now with the NC State basketball team. He's done a lot for us. He's a decent, unlike my feelings about Dave Doran, Keatts is a good guy. He's a good guy. He's a lovable figure. But, it's just kind of like, I forget what book this comes from. I know you've seen the meme where it's like the story where the guy has to shoot his brother, or like is either his special needs brother or friend, and he has to shoot him. You know the meme I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's kind of like my take on what the Mac Brown scenario was like at UNC for most fans, and for how I feel about Kevin Keatts. It's that, if you get what I'm saying, you don't want to do it, but it's what's for the best in the future.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying what happened in that book was right. I'm just saying it's similar to what happened in the story. I'm not saying that was right by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just it's the writing on the wall. It's kind of what was best, but and the way it happened, it was it's not a good look. Do I think Belichick can do it for UNC? Yes. But part of me is wondering, is the universe going to bite back at UNC for how they treated Mac Brown? Maybe. For your sake, I hope not. But I could see the NCAA gods being like, you wanted this. You wanted this.
I'm all in either way. I mean, if we're going down, I want it to be an absolute affront to everyone. I want it the ships burning as they're sinking. I want guns firing off in the background. Either way, like I'm just here for it.
Yeah, I am too. I'm interested to see how it goes. It certainly will be interesting to see how he transfers over to college. But for right now, so with the Malapros Tweet of the Year award, which just means horrible timing, Caden Salter talking about App State ducking him, acting as if that was going to like keep them out of the playoffs somehow. Buddy, you guys weren't even close. Um, like I said, I would never like wish any like actual harm upon this guy, but I just kind of find this like morally reprehensible to be saying, especially about a town where it's not like it was unknown that people were dying. It's not like it was unknown that there were thousands homeless. And this man's like, bro, just play a football game. Like even their fans were like, bro, just play. Just another reason to hate Liberty. Just anything else you want to add?
I just want to say, hopefully he can. I know he's transferring to Colorado. Uh, I just hope he finds the error in his ways. Very ill-timed tweet. Sometimes there are things that are way bigger than football, and the destruction that Western Carolina faced during Hurricane Helene was detrimental to the entirety of Western Carolina, and a lot of people are still recovering from it. We wish the best for all those in Western Carolina, and just Caden Selter, please do better. Let's all try to realize there are things bigger than football, and I wish the best for you in your career, but I also wish you find error in your ways, and uh, like I'm sure people will forgive you once you seek that forgiveness. But uh, in an ironic twist of fate, Caden Selter and the Liberty Flames ended up losing to Kennesaw State. So their playoff chances were never ruined by not playing App State. They ruined them themselves.
Yep. Next award we've got an honorable mention here on this award. This is the All French Never Give Up Award. Our honorable mention is Cam Ward for giving up in the middle of that bowl game, essentially just going to get the passing record. But, honestly, why give up on your team there? It pains me that you're not taking such a, historic bowl game so seriously. A bowl game that
Yes.
the NCAA put out a dispensation just so you could have sprinkles on the sidelines painted on. So, it's that important.
And true, really wrecking the integrity of the Pop Tarts Bowl. So, I mean, as sad as I was about that, he doesn't deserve this award. I hope he has a good NFL career. But in the end, this award could only go to Garrett. Do you want to take it away?
Thomas Castellanos of Boston College. At the first sight of adversity, he said he needed to take a break from football. Next thing you know, he's in the transfer portal, committed to Florida State. The definition of throwing in the white flag. He saw a little bit of adversity. Bro hit the portal, abandoned his team, went to Florida State. Honestly, I don't think Florida State's gonna be that much better off with them. I know they're gonna have Gus Malzahn as their OC. I really don't see them going to be able to do much this season. I could be eating my words, but who knows? I think, yes, he's talented, but if he's able to give up that easy, who's to say when he's in a tough matchup in the ACC, one of those games where no one wants to be there. You're playing at like Virginia on a Thursday night. You don't want to be there. It's cold and rainy. The stadium's empty and you're down by 10. He's probably going to give up on you there, if I'm being completely honest, based off of previous behavior. So, anything you want to add to this?
Well, I think this is the first time in history where we can say moving from Boston College to Florida State might be a downgrade. I mean, I think this is the first time in history where we can say that, but I wish the best for him in his career, and maybe he did did what was best for him personally, but just the optics of the situation was not the best. But well, only time will tell, and maybe we're eating our words in a year time.
Who knows? All right, moving on to our second to last award. This is an award I came up with. This is so for those of you who know, the CW and the ACC have struck a new deal with the ACC network. So essentially, ESPN gets to pick what games it wants from the ACC. Then the ACC network gets the rest, and then the leftover games then go to the CW network. And no shade to the CW network. Some of those commentators on there, Max Brown, I absolutely love. I love some of his stuff that he puts out on YouTube and social media. I'm not hating on the commentators. I'm just hating on just like, unlike other conferences, the games that end up usually getting relegated to the CW were the games that, teams that weren't really trending at the time, weren't really doing that well. So without further ado, here's the Aiden. Whenever this happened, Aiden and I called it getting relegated to the Arrowverse. Because like we said, it's usually not the best game on. So the winners of the relegated to the Arrowverse award are Boston College. They had the most games on the CW. Actually, no, sorry. Let's explain our thought process here. Aiden and I took a tally of all the teams that played games on the CW network. And this was going to be the team that had the most time on the CW network. And it came down to a three-way tie between Syracuse, Boston College, and UNC. And I'm sure you're thinking, Syracuse, that's not in the spirit of the award. They had a damn good season. They had their first 9-win season in a while, and they had a quarterback who led the nation statistically in passing in both touchdowns and yards. So, Aiden and I are like, we can't have a three-way tie. And how can a team like Syracuse win the relegation award when they played pretty damn good? So what Aiden and I did was Aiden and I were like, okay, there's a three-way tie for first. What should the tiebreaker be? We were going to go, do we go record? We decided, how many home games were on the CW? Because, it happens to everyone. You get put, like even Alabama gets put on ESPN Plus sometimes when for some reason they draw, like somehow end up with a random away game against like, Troy or something like that. It's only on local TV or ESPN Plus, or like in college basketball, like, the bigger teams, they usually play home games against some of the smaller teams, but occasionally they'll throw a smaller team the bone. Like, NC State or UNC will like go play Detroit Mercy on the road because like, it's like they're so bad. It's like, what's the harm? Like, and it ends up like not even televised. And, you kind of just shrug it off. So that's why we said, who has the most home games on the CW? Because that's what really matters. Out of those three tied for first, UNC, one home game. Syracuse, one home game. Boston College, all three. Boston College is your 2024-2025 relegated to the CW verse winner. Anything you'd like to add?
Boston College had a pretty solid year by Boston College standards, but just being relegated to the Arrowverse for most of their home games, technically speaking, like that were televised, is a little bit of a disappointment if I'm a Boston College fan. Uh, the optics of being broadcasted on the CW is something we kind of created. Not all CW games are horrible games. I want to make it like abundantly clear about that. But a good portion of them were kind of mid brawls. And Boston College just unfortunately drew the most when it came to CW matchups. And here's to hopefully a successful year ahead for Boston College. Perhaps they can pull some more ESPN caliber matchups, but we sent your ass to the Arrowverse, and there's nothing else to say about that. Otherwise, good season. Just unfortunately, maybe not a lot of people watched it.
I will say this about the CW verse. We're not saying it's bad. It's the way that it was pushed. It made it seem bad. It was the games that no one wanted. It's not like other leagues when they were pushed to paywalls. It's not like other leagues where it's like each team plays an equal amount of games behind a paywall. Like, for instance, in my research, after this, I've given Providence basketball shit for being behind a paywall in their most recent games. But I've come to find out through research, each Big East team in their contract agreed to play 3 games on Peacock. and that just happened to coincide with the slide that Providence is on. UConn, Creighton, Marquette, and even St. John's have had to play games on Peacock. So I will say the issue with the ACC is how it was, like I said, have been saying, is how it was presented. It was the games that no one wanted. That is
But they
literally what the
tried
ACC.
to, but they tried to also push it as like marquee games, which is weird.
Marquee games, but it was, if you look at how the television broadcasting went, like I said, ESPN got their first pick of games, then ACC Network got their first pick of games, and some of you, some of you may know is how games are picked in college football is the time of the game isn't always set in stone. It can vary, and games can get bounced from essentially they were supposed to, like the NFL, they were supposed to be prime time, but all of a sudden they get pushed to 3:30, or oh, this was supposed to be a 3:30 game, or it's an either or situation where oh, this is either going to be a prime time night game or this is going to be noon. And ESPN and ACC Network get the first pick of games and get to choose the game times. And the CW essentially got the scraps, and that's what was in the contract. So we're not like I said, we're not throwing any shade to it. Aiden and I are big fans of Max Brown, like one of the commentators on the CW. There are some other guys on the CW who are great. I've even met some CW commentators when I up in my time commentating at Providence, former men's basketball coach for UMass, who I think it was one of their only good seasons in UMass history. I'm blanking on his name, and I know it'd probably kill him because I talked to this guy like before 4 games. He's a Fox broadcaster, but he also works for the CW. Great guys in the CW. This is not us knocking the commentators. This is us knocking how the ACC, they wanted to be seen as marquee matchups, but then also kind of gave subtleties about how they were like, the unwanted matchups, but still marketed them despite saying certain things about the CW, if you know what I mean. Like, This is not us dogging on the CW. This is us making fun of how the ACC presents it.
Yeah.
And our final award of the night, I don't even know if Aiden sees this one coming. We've got the Sore Loser Award.
Ooh.
We're going to start with college. Alabama, the state of Alabama.
State of Alabama.
We should be in the playoff. Gets housed by Michigan. And I know Ohio State lost to Michigan. That's a rivalry game. Rivalry game, you throw ranks and you throw records out the window. Like, you throw ranks and records out the window in rivalry games. In any sport. Just because rivalry games, they mean more. They bring the best and worst out of teams. So in rivalry games, you throw everything out the wall. It's just your people versus my people. That's a rivalry game. Like, honestly, and you usually, for most rivalries, you can't tell how it's going to go. Even if a team could be looking really unconvincing and then show up and win 48-0 against their rival in football. Like, it's happened before. Like, I've watched ranked teams and other not necessarily. This has happened a few times, maybe in the State Carolina game. There's like 1 or 2 times I can think of in the last 20 years where I've seen this. But in other rivalries, I've seen teams that are ranked in the top 10 go up against a 6-6 opponent, fighting for bowl eligibility, and they absolutely fucking house the top 10 team. Like, even on the road too. Like, they're like, this is before you were a UNC fan. A 5-6 NC State came to town against like a 15th ranked Carolina, and like, it was 42-14.
Yeah.
Like they just looked like they didn't want to be. They're granted that was under Larry Fedora, and that was the start of his spiral. So I'll give you that. That was under Fedora's incompetence. But like, Michigan, really? And they proved to be a solid team down the stretch, but it was just they didn't have that firepower up front to keep pace with teams. So anything else you want to add to that about Alabama?
This also just kind of boils down to how the SEC in general was responding to the playoff rankings. I feel like the playoff got it right in the end, and just dogging on teams like Indiana and freaking Boise State for not showing up to when in actuality, I don't think the SEC teams would really show up as much. I mean, freaking Tennessee got dogged by Ohio State. That was one of your guys. Texas, a new comer, almost got beat by an Arizona State team, but then got beat by Ohio State in a game where the scoreboard was way closer than what was actually going on the field. I feel like, but it's just all encapsulated by how Alabama fans were acting in that like 2 to 3 week period, kind of leading up in bowl season. That just kind of made them run away with this award, in my opinion.
And for our final award of the night, the NFL Sore Loser of the Year award, Brittany Mahomes. For those of you who are unaware, following the Chiefs' loss in the Super Bowl, Brittany Mahomes has taken to social media and has essentially said that the Chiefs wouldn't have lost. And in her words, if the refs didn't allow Patrick to be tackled like a wild animal.
Okay.
I feel for once that the refs were pretty fair about defenders hitting Mahomes. And I feel like we've seen all season, defenders were pulling up. Like, even they would have been well within their rights in certain scenarios to just level him out. Like, he wasn't sliding, well within the rights to level him out. And they pulled up because they were afraid. And she's out here talking about saying, had the refs been better, Kansas City would have won. The refs have been tilted in your favor all season. And the one time it seemed like there was an even whistle, you got dog walked. I mean, is there really anything else we can add to this? I mean, do you have anything to say to this?
I have nothing else to say to this other than the fact that it does seem like the Chiefs were carried a lot by the refs throughout the season, but I'm not going to comment on that because the games fell the way they fell. And again, with the Super Bowl, the ball did not lie, and the Eagles were victorious, and they proved themselves to be the best team in the NFL. So, other than that, I have nothing else to say.
Yeah, so that's all the awards we have. I mean, we could have done some like cringier stuff. I mean, like not cringy, but like mainline, like offensive rookie of the year. Obviously, like we do Jaden Daniels, defensive rookie of the year, Cooper DeJean. But that's really all we have for our award show. Is there anything else you'd like to add at the end here?
No, I'm good.
I'm good as well. Next week we'll be back with our normal episode. College baseball starts this week, so we'll be having a college baseball special coming out soon. Games start today. Sorry, on Valentine's Day. NC State starts their campaign off with a series against Fordham. I forget, who do you guys start off? Do you guys start off with Texas Tech?
I believe it's Texas Tech.
UNC starts off with Texas Tech. College baseball, I believe, is kind of underrated. Like for me, the top three, my favorite sports to watch, honestly, college basketball, college football, and college baseball. They're just special. College baseball, honestly, feels more closer to college basketball in certain ways, but so from there, I think that'll do it for us today. Thank you for listening in. And next week, you can even ask about. We'll even have I have a rant about college swimming coming next week. Something that I said we talk about, but I've got something's been going on with college swimming that I'm very heated about, and I'm sure we'll have a special on it next week. Definitely plenty of college basketball, and maybe we'll even work on some college baseball, some soccer, and even some MMA. So thank you for listening in. Hope you have a great night, and we will see you next week. Oh, not leave studio, stay. Oh, sorry, I'll end recording there. Whoops.